climbed so many other people and went all the way to the top.
It's a post-game interview now. Trent, interview me. You're the great broadcaster known as the voice of tree climbing, and you have your great star tree climber right here in front of you, the great Rich Carroll. He made the number 23 popular in sports because of all of his tree climbing extravaganzas. Talk to me, Trent. I'm your hero.
Well, my first question would be: did you cheat in order to win this, or did you?
Is that really the first question you would ask me, Trent?
Yeah. Did you cheat?
I'm going to try not to be insulted. Can you imagine? It's the end of the World Series. The Houston Astros have won, and on the field, Joe Buck says, "Hey, Jose Altuve. Did you guys cheat this year?"
Yeah. Well, it would come to find out, trash cans that said fastball. You hit it twice, it's a fastball. You hit it 3, it's a curveball. It's whatever.
But I don't. You see, my point is, Trent, I don't think you would ask Jose Altuve that question, but me.
But you.
Me. You would treat me like that.
I would never ask a professional athlete that question, but you, that's another story. I might ask you. Who knows?
Well, we just established that I'm the greatest tree climber of all time. So you need to show me some respect, buddy.
I will, buddy. I'll show you some respect right now by talking Major League Baseball because the Tampa Bay Rays are on a little bit of a hot streak. They actually won a series up in Toronto last week. Can you believe that? It seems. I mean, they played pretty well at Rogers Center as of late, but it did not look like it. I mean, they were steamrolled on Thursday night up in Toronto. They were also steamrolled Friday afternoon for a Canada Day matchup. Did you know Canada Day, Rich, was July 1st?
Canada Day is my favorite holiday.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. It's my favorite holiday, number one.
The Canadian national anthem was sung.
Excuse me.
Before.
Oh, Canada, my home and native land. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. You're welcome. I just wanted to prove my love of Canada Day to you, Trent. Did you enjoy that?
I tell you, we got some great, wonderful neighbors to our north, and I mean that wholeheartedly. So that was no, I'm serious.
Believe it or not, Trent, glass just broke in my apartment. The mirror just cracked a little bit. I don't know how that happened, but.
No, because you looked at it. That's why.
Oh,
man!
How dare you? I am I. Let me tell you right now, Trent. I'll have you know, I am a very attractive person. Extremely attractive.
Oh, that makes me laugh. That's so great. But anyway, the Rays lost to the Toronto Blue Jays on July 1st, and even on the 30th of June. They lost the first 2 games of that series. That series didn't look good, but all of a sudden, Kevin Cash and a few of the players had a team meeting before Saturday's doubleheader, and the reason that they lost both these games, yes, it didn't help that Corey Kluber had a bad outing on Friday, and it didn't help that a few of the other pitchers, had a few tough outings as well. But the offense, it has not been coming through consistently, and we saw that in this series, or in the first part of the series with Toronto. Tampa Bay had 8 hits at one point against the Toronto Blue Jays, but they weren't able to get a runner across the plate. They even had runners at second and third several times, and Toronto had given them some extra outs, but that's not what you wanted to do. But the main reason the Rays lost those 2 games were, on the offensive end, Tampa Bay just couldn't get it done, and then defensively, the pitching staff gave up a couple of walks and let Blue Jay base runners on free of charge, and with guys like Teoscar Hernandez and Bo Bichette and George Springer and Vlad Guerrero Jr. and so much power in that lineup. If you let guys on free of charge, that's going to come back to haunt you, and that's what it happened for the Tampa Bay Rays for those first 2 games. But you know what? The series changed the trajectory of it changed Saturday and into Sunday because the Rays swept a split doubleheader against the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, splitting a doubleheader is hard in itself, but the Rays were able to do it, and they ended up winning the games by pretty fair margins on Saturday. They scored more than 6 runs in both games, so that's always fantastic. And then they ended up winning the game on Sunday as well to win that series 3-2. So they played 5 games within a 4-day span in Toronto. Then they went to Boston, and on Monday they lost. It's kind of one of those games that kind of before the 3-game winning streak after the series in Toronto. It's kind of one of those things where before the series in Toronto, I should say, it was kind of one of those things where they couldn't get the offense going. I mean, they had runners at second and third a couple times. They were even given an extra out in one of the earlier innings by an error by a Boston Red Sox infielder, but they couldn't take advantage of that. And next thing you know, Boston ended up opening the game up in the later innings and won it by a score of 4-0, and they got shut out for the 5th time this season. And but Tuesday night and Wednesday night they took care of business. They won a slugfest in Boston. They won an 8-4 game. They doubled it up on Tuesday, and then on Wednesday they shut them out by a 7-0 score thanks to another great outing by Corey Kluber. So look. And if you look at the American League East right now, obviously the Yankees with the, you can stop saying historically good start right now because we're officially halfway through the season. Okay, they had a historic first half. It looks like they're on their way to winning the division. But when you look at second, third, and fourth place, you got to admit, Rich, that the American League East is pretty tight. I mean, right now, as we speak, the Toronto Blue Jays and Tampa Bay are tied for I believe or I think it's like Toronto, Boston, and Tampa Bay are all right up there for second place. Not even 2 games are separating second, third, and fourth place in the division. So if you're a fan of the American League East, you got to be happy about that.
I don't know. I would say if you're a fan of the American League East, you're not too happy this year because of the way, unless you're a Yankee fan, because of the way the Yankees are playing. But I think, and we've said it all year, and that would lead to frustration to me if I was a fan of one of the other teams, because those teams aren't having bad years. I mean, the Rays and the Red Sox both tied for second place. They're 8 games over 500. That's not terrible. Blue Jays, I think if you're a Blue Jays fan, you're extremely disappointed. Yes, you're only a half game behind the Red Sox and the Rays, but you're 14 games out of the division, and you are the team coming into the season that was the favorite. Everybody was talking about the Toronto Blue Jays going into the season, and right now they're 14 games out of first place, a half a game behind the Red Sox and the Rays. But all that being said, these are still, I believe, would be the 3 teams those would be your 3 wild card teams. The Rays, the Red Sox, and the Blue Jays. The Yankees and Houston would get the bye, and right now, as it would be the Blue Jays against the Twins in a 3-game series, and the Red Sox and the Rays in a 3-game series. So that's the way the playoffs would work out right now. And those 3 games, the way they have it here, would actually be at the Trop if the season were to end today. So, it's got to be frustrating to be having a decent season and not be anywhere close. I mean, and I'm not, we've seen leads disappear before, and the Yankees have kind of hit their first, somewhat cold stretch here. You got a lot of cold bats in the lineup. The pitching has struggled in a way, hit a wall. Jameson Taillon, who's been so good this year, I would say at least his last half dozen starts have not been good. Every time you look up, he starts a game, he gives up a 3-run home run or 4 runs early. Now he ends up pitching 7 innings, but you were getting used to 7 innings, 1-run ball, and lately it's 7 innings, 3-4-run ball. Not what you and all of them haven't been as good lately. Whether you're talking about Nestor Cortez or Severino's actually been pretty steady and pretty amazing. Garrett Cole has reestablished himself, I think, as the ace of the staff. But you've had a cold lineup, and you've had a pitching staff that really is hitting a wall here, and that could be concerning when you consider that Nestor Cortes is already he's never pitched this many innings in his career. And a lot of people are thinking, well, maybe the Yankees here the rest of the year, they have such a big lead. You call Sears up, and maybe you go to a 6-man rotation to alleviate some of the burden. We'll see what the Yankees decide to do here. But they're 6-10 in their last 10 games, and still have a 13.5 game lead. So we're not going to go crazy here. We're talking about a team that basically has an automatic out in Joey Gallo in the lineup every day, strikes out every time up, yet still they win more games than not. And they went to Houston for the one game, the makeup game with the late start to the season. They lost that game 2-1. Bregman had a 2-run double, and you had the solo shot from Anthony Rizzo. Houston won that game. So last week they played 5 times. Houston took 3 out of 5. So obviously 2 evenly matched teams, and there's no, when you're talking about the Houston Astros, you're talking about the team that's been in the ALCS 5 years straight and won a World Series, been to a couple. So they're the team to beat in the American League. I don't care what the Yankees record is. And you could talk about Yankees will have home field advantage if things were to end today, but regardless, the American League pennant goes through Houston. That's just the reality of the situation. So, and if you're a Yankee fan, you relish that opportunity. Let's get it. Let's get that ALCS against the Houston Astros. I'll take my chances. I think the Yankees are just as good as Houston. They're just very evenly matched teams, and you roll the dice and you hope we'll get a good series. We've seen the Yankees take that team to 7 games and 6 games, and this is the best Yankee team in years. So I'd be confident going into that series against Houston for sure. They had the Cleveland Indians over the weekend, another team kind of really they've fallen a little bit out of that wild card race, about 5 games behind the Red Sox, the Rays, the Blue Jays. But the Guardians are one of those teams trying to get into the playoffs along with the Seattle Mariners. Yankees took 2 out of 3 from Cleveland in Cleveland over the weekend. But they had another one of those days that you're seeing a lot of lately. They were completely shut down. They couldn't get the sweep in Cleveland. They lose that game 2-0, but they get out of there with the series win. And then inexplicably, you start the series against the Pittsburgh Pirates this week, a little 2-game set, and everybody knows Pittsburgh's arguably the worst team, if not, Cincinnati's pretty terrible too, but Pittsburgh's pretty awful team. Yankees go out there and they have another one of those kind of offensive disappearing acts, first game of that series, and they lose to Pittsburgh 5-2. Again, another example of Tyone not having it, giving up the 3 runs early, but pitching deep into the game. And today, Yankees were not happy about losing to Pittsburgh yesterday. So it's the 9th inning, and the Yankees are winning this one 16-0. So taking it out on the lowly Pirates today, letting out a little frustration. And now a bit of a test. You know what? These are we talked about a couple weeks ago. Yankees have 9 games coming up here. Rays and Blue Jays, what's going to happen? And Yankees took care of business. They went out there and won 7 of the 9 games. So now they play the Boston Red Sox 7 out of the next 10 games. You get a 4-game set this weekend at Fenway, and then a 3-game set next week at in the Bronx. So if Boston wants to make a run here, and look, it's early July. I don't care what the lead is. Something can happen, right? I mean, you could make a move. But you know what? If Boston is serious about making a move, you sweep the Yankees in Fenway this weekend. That's what happens. You turn that. You take that 13.5 game lead. You make it 9.5. You get it to under 10. And look, it's middle of July. You get the lead to under 10. there's plenty of time to make that up, and the psychological effects of that.
If they get it to less than 10 before the All-Star break, then who knows what can happen.
Yeah, exactly. So we're in July. Anything's possible. I don't care how good the Yankees have played, but we'll see what happens. You're still talking about a Boston Red Sox team that beat the Yankees in that one-game wild card last year. Even though the Yankees were dominating Boston toward the end of the season last year, they had they played extremely well in Boston the week prior to even get into the playoffs. Won some big games against Toronto as well. Lose the one game, which is a ridiculous scenario that it all came down to one game there. Who knows what would have happened last year if they had that 3-game series, set up there. But whatever. It's 2022, big series this weekend. They have a chance. It's 7 out of the next 10 days. Boston and New York, big opportunity for the Red Sox. We'll see if they can make a move here. It's going to be tough. Look, Yankees are playing extremely well. They're 58-23, about to be 59-23. It's the best record in the majors by a lot right now. Houston's about 6 games back. And obviously this is a different team from last year. Yankees were 41-40 last year through the first 81 games. So this year, 58-23. Think about that. Last year the Yankees were 41-40. And the Tampa Bay Rays were like in first place by 10 games or so. So what a difference a year makes for sure. But you'd expect that the pace was going to slow down considerably here. There's no way it's ridiculous. They're having such an incredible year. 36 games over 500 in July is kind of ridiculous. So we'll see what happens. Huge series with the Boston Red Sox. They've been playing extremely well. They've been hot. They've had a great June. They just don't gain any ground because the Yankees are playing extremely well. The Red Sox looked dead and buried a couple of weeks ago, and now they're basically tied for second place. So, anything's possible here. But just to put a bow on it, Toronto and Tampa, they had their chance a couple weeks ago, didn't work out. Boston gets their chance now. 7 games in the next 10 days. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what happens. Tampa Bay, as long as they keep playing the way they are, we'll see where they go. Who knows? A lot of people are calling for them to get another hitter in this lineup, and who knows? Wilson Contreras would be a pipe dream if they could get him from the Chicago Cubs. Contreras is hitting the cover off the ball. Would love to see Josh Bell possibly come to Tampa Bay. I don't know who you'd get rid of, but I think the pitching is doing his job. We just need one more offensive guy. Who knows? Manuel Margot is now on the 60-day DL with that ligament injury. Brandon Lau, there's no telling if he'll be back right after the All-Star break. So as the All-Star break approaches, which is going to be in about July 17th is the last day before the All-Star break. So it's right around the corner, almost 10 days away now. And or if you're definitely it's less than 10 days away now if you're listening on the podcast. But I'm just saying. It would be nice to get that acquisition. Who knows what's going to happen? Tampa Bay, I said that this wasn't a make or break road trip for Tampa Bay, but they've won 2 out of the 3 series that they played so far. Who knows if they go like 8-3 in this 11-game road trip, or if they something like that, it's the best they could do if they swept the Cincinnati Reds, the lowly Cincinnati Reds, that is, and so we'll see what happens. I think they did. I think Cincinnati did beat the Mets a while back. So they can beat teams, but
hey, Trent, it's baseball, Trent, right? The worst teams will win 60 games, and even the best teams lose 60 games.
That's right, absolutely. So, but look, the Rays are on a great trajectory right now. People said if they went, 8-3, 9-2, they'd be they're holding it together. They'd be in good shape. Tampa Bay is definitely playing better at home than they are on the road this season. So,
oh my God, that's Trent. The line on the Yankee game. Straight. Let's check this out. Yankees had 16 runs tonight. They had 22 hits. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I know, it's insane.
22 hits in a game. My good, Pittsburgh's awful. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Pittsburgh is not the best team in the world. So that's putting a bow on baseball. Real quick, just before we wrap up the sports segment here, I want to ask you on the NBA. So many free agents stuff going on right now. Summer League, I think, has already started, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
The Summer League contests have already started. I think the Magic play their first game tomorrow at some point, so I would love to. It's going to be my first look at Paolo Banchero. Can't wait to see how he looks kind of in game action, even though it's Summer League. But we got some free agent questions, man. Who knows? We got some free agent moves that have already been made. We've got Kevin Durant. We have no idea where he's going to go yet. So just tell me, man. Just give me a little recap on your version of a free agency. We'd love to hear what you think about that.
Well, I mean, obviously, you bring up Summer League, and the big story today from NBA Summer League was Chet Holmgren. I think he was a second pick by OKC, Oklahoma City Thunder. A lot of people making a big deal out of his Summer League debut. He's another one of these guys, kind of like that Kevin Durant build, 6'10", but he's only 190 pounds, so he's a big skinny dude, and he seems to have some ball handling ability. He actually was the first player ever in a Summer League game to hit 4 3-pointers and also get 6 block shots. So that was interesting. He also dropped 22 points. Who knows what he can become? You look at the guy, you look at him, you think, that guy needs to put on some weight. I mean, he's looking like Sean Bradley type of territory. But at the same time, Durant never put on any weight, but he became one of the great players of all time. So I got to see more of him. Obviously, 22. It's Summer League, so you got to take into account who they're playing against. But 22 points, 6 block shots, 4 3-pointers. He looked the part. He looked like an interesting player, and he does get the advantage of being a guy that's on a super horrible team when you talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder, and you got to figure that this is going to be a year where they're just going to give him the ball and say, go get it. Let's see what you can do. But a lot of hype behind him. I remember even before the draft, there was video going on at a practice where he made a move on Steph Curry and dunked the ball, and everybody was going crazy about that. So, he's an interesting player, and that was the big story day one of the NBA Summer League, that everybody got a chance to see Chet Holmgren. And, I didn't know when the Magic were going to debut, Trent, but I'm definitely fascinated. I want to see what this Banchero kid looks like, because who knows, man? I mean, he might be the guy that might guide the Magic back to being relevant again.
Yeah, I think I'd love to see. We had, by the way, we had a sports show last week where we talked to Dante Marchitelli, the broadcaster for Bally Sports Sun, pre- and post-game host for Bally Sports Sun, and we had Out of Sight Sports on, and we talked to him about that. So if you want to hear more of that interview, you can download the Flagler Radio app and tap on podcast and go on Out of Sight Sports, and then you'll be able to hear our full interview with
That's
Dante Marchitelli.
Yeah, Dante Marchitelli. Yeah, check it out. Yeah. You can get it on the Flagler Radio app, and you could also just go on SoundCloud if you want, Trent. Just go on SoundCloud, look for Out of Sight Sports, and
I do it via the app, okay?
I do it via the app as well, no doubt about it. Okay. And you can find the show in a podcast form on FlaglerBroadcasting.com as well. So a couple different ways to get out of sports and listen to our interview with Dante Marchitelli, Orlando Magic broadcaster. I mean, you talk about NBA free agency, Trent. The big story is Kevin Durant, the Brooklyn Nets. All of a sudden they're breaking that thing up, and it's gone to hell in a handbasket because, just a couple of years ago, if you're a Brooklyn Nets fan, you've got visions of championship dancing in your head. You're hoping that special things are going to happen. You got the best player in the world, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, one of the best talents at the point guard position of all time. You're thinking you're going to do something. All you got to do is wait a year. KD coming off the big injury, he's going to miss a year. But when he comes back, oh boy, we're going to be good. And basically, the best they did was get to the second round and lose to the Milwaukee Bucks. And they're going to blow that thing up now. You know, you had all the issues with Kyrie Irving, the part-time player, the vaccine. This team was never able to get any kind of flow going, any kind of chemistry. And even with all that said, you still had a lot of the experts picking them to win that first-round series against the Boston Celtics. And not only did they not win that series against the Celtics, they got swept. And by the way, the Brooklyn Nets were the only team in the NBA playoffs this past year to get swept. So it was a horrible, pathetic performance. KD was awful in that series. And to me, it's another indictment on his character as a leader, as a basketball player. Because first of all, I know that the team pays him, but to me, he should feel like he owes this franchise something, because they went out there and they gave him big money while he was injured. You didn't know how KD was going to come back off that injury. You didn't know if he was ever going to be the same again. But the Nets, they gambled on him. And, yeah, he came back and he was great. And he gave the Nets a great couple of years. But this is your team now. You know what? It hasn't gone great. All right, it hasn't. What is Kevin Durant thinking right now? Are you looking for the easy way out again? I just don't understand where do you want to go? Oh, I want to go to Phoenix of Miami. Well, of course you want to go to Phoenix or Miami, right? You want to go play with Chris Paul and Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton and be the final piece of the puzzle there. A team that just won 65 games and is coming off of one of the best seasons that franchise has ever had, even though they lost in the second round to Dallas. And the year before went to an NBA Finals and lost to the Milwaukee Bucks. Let me go be the final piece to the puzzle there rather than creating my own championship team. Why I just don't get him asking out here. Okay, it hasn't worked out the past couple of years. You're the one who Kyrie had to come. He had to be a part of the whole thing. So make it work out. And you look at the roster, they come back next year. This is still a team that can win. This is still a team that can play. So I just wonder what led to him requesting a trade. Why? And I haven't seen that anywhere where Kevin Durant has come out with a statement as to why he's requesting a trade. If I'm the Nets, to me there are two approaches. First of all, yeah, you could look at it this way. This is possibly the greatest trade commodity that any team has held in the history of the NBA, because Durant just signed a 4-year deal with them. So not only, if you get Durant, not only do you get him in a trade, but you also have him for years now. There's no negotiating, worrying about in a year, we're going to have to negotiate a new contract. No, he's signed. It's all good. So not only do you get KD, but you already got the contract, so it's an extremely valuable trade commodity, and you should expect a huge return. But is that return ever, I don't care how many draft picks you get or what you get for Kevin Durant, is the return ever going to match what you lose? A lot of people consider Kevin Durant to be the best player in the world right now. No draft pick is going to replace that. I don't see any team that has a package that could, properly compensate the Nets in that regard. So I think there's a couple different approaches. One is, if I'm the Nets, I look at KD and I say, you just signed a contract, dude. You're signed for 4 years. Get that out of your head and let's go. I don't want to hear about, if a player is not all in. Maybe that makes sense if you're signed for 1 year. The dude is signed for 4 years. He better be all in eventually or change his attitude. You signed. I don't see any reason why the Nets should be forced to trade him here. I don't care if he doesn't want to be here. You signed a contract. It's a guaranteed contract. It's 4 years. There's no way if I'm the Nets, you don't want to be here? Okay, bye. No, you committed to us. We committed to you when you were injured. So I think I would go to KD and say, we're not trading you. Get over it. Let's go. What are you going to be, James Harden, and show up to camp fat? We don't care. You better make it work and get a better attitude here and give us your best and try to win a championship. That's one. The second approach to me is I'm trading him to the Detroit Pistons. You know what? I'm trading him to the Orlando Magic. Give me Banchero and your 2 picks from last year and first round pick next year. Let's talk about a big time package that only a team like a horrible team, Detroit or the Orlando Magic. I'm not sending him to Miami. I'm not sending him to Phoenix. What good team could possibly come up with a package that would satisfy Brooklyn in this scenario? I can't see it. And on top of that, why would Brooklyn want to do something good for Kevin Durant? So I know everybody says it's over. He's and by the way, I haven't heard anything about Kyrie Irving requesting a trade. So he's still on the books for next year. Maybe if you're the Nets, you approach KD and you say, you know what? All right, you requested a trade. How about let's just give us a year. Let's take this next year. Kyrie Irving is still under contract. We have a darn good roster. We can make a run at this thing. Give us 1 year. And then, okay, that's 1 more year off the contract. Makes him makes the contract less valuable, sure. But come on, man. You got to give the franchise 1 more year here. Kyrie Irving's still under contract. I can't see any scenario where it makes sense for the Brooklyn Nets to trade Kevin Durant and then on top of that trade him to a winner, because there's not one team in this league that's a winning team that has a shot that can offer proper compensation. If you're the Phoenix Suns, you're not trading Devin Booker because that defeats the purpose of getting Kevin Durant. You want to make yourself better, So I don't see it, Trent. I don't see how the Nets could trade Durant even with him requesting a trade. But you know what? They don't have.
Yeah, I don't either.
It doesn't seem like they have very competent ownership there either. So anyway, that's the big story. NBA free agency right now for sure. And man, it doesn't get more exciting or more dramatic sometimes than the NBA offseason.
You got that right, and that's a real jammed up segment of sports there too. We got lots of baseball in there. We got some NBA free agency.
Let me just one more thing on the sports, Trent. How about Baker Mayfield going over there? I just wanted to bring this up to you real quick because I thought it was funny. I forget what year Mayfield was drafted. I think it was 2016 or 2017. Mayfield, and I bring it up for obvious reasons here, Trent. Baker Mayfield, he gets drafted number 1 overall, number 2 pick to the New York Giants, another terrible draft pick. They drafted Saquon Barkley, and then with the 3rd pick in the draft, the New York Jets draft Sam Darnold. The top 3 picks in that draft obviously didn't pan out so well, and the Carolina Panthers, who have made this trade, and some would say it's insulting, Trent, they get Baker Mayfield, formerly the number 1 overall pick in the draft. The Carolina Panthers get him for a 5th round pick. Unbelievable. But now, look at this, Trent. Now, if you're the Panthers, they have the number 1 pick and the number 3 pick overall of that draft on their roster now. And now Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield will be duking it out in the preseason for the starting job there, the number 1 and 3 pick of that draft. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it really is. And you also look at it, too, all the problems that Baker Mayfield has caused off the field. I hate to say it, but he's not the best guy you want to have on your team as far as conduct is concerned. But hopefully he'll be able to clear that up. But the number 1 and the number – I mean, we've seen how Sam, has done so far, and he hasn't done well. I mean, we've seen a couple of games where he's done some good things, but other than that, he's it's kind of like 1 step forward and about 3 steps back for Sam. And so we'll need to see more out of him. We'll need to see more out of Baker Mayfield to see what happens. But that's definitely something for sure.
You know what the rallying cry for Jet fans? This is how pathetic the Jets and Jet fans are, Trent. You know what the rallying cry was leading up to that draft?
What's that?
All the Jet fans were saying, "Suck for Sam."
Yep.
Suck for Sam. And we sucked. And we got Sam, but guess what? He sucked too.
Yeah, he did.
Terrible.
That's the Jets. That's the Jets for you.
Oh my goodness! And there is there's always hope in July for the upcoming football season. So I have hope, Trent. I have hope.
Okay.
You know what that reminds me
great.
of? Having hope.
Yeah, that's a good thing to have hope. And I have hope for a good couch report too. That's always great.